sometimes we don't realize that we need to be bold. We need to dare to dream and to know what we want and to go there. And for instance, I have this strange career path where I had several very different jobs. But what I can tell is that those different jobs enable me to do M&A in a proper way, because sometimes you need to know that, okay, I need to take the chance, I need to go there and then to go there and to experience, to have different experience.
Hi, my name is João Boavida and welcome to the new episode of Quantos the Numbers. Today, I'm here with Dr. Filipa Barreto. She's an associate partner at KPMG at the Department of Deal Advisory, specially dedicated to the M&A sector. In this episode, we'll talk about her history, about KPMG, and about the M&A sector. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy here. So let's just start. Can you tell us more about you?
So, hi João, it's a pleasure to be here with you and to have the opportunity to speak to these students. My name is Filipa Barreto. I have a pre-Bologna degree in management from ISEG and with an old master in finance, or old major as you call it, in finance from ISCTE. First of all, I would like to say that ISEG was always very special to me. So it runs in the family. My dad and all my uncles graduated from ISEG, so it's kind of the second generation. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm currently an associate partner at the Deal Advisory team of KPMG Portugal, mainly dedicated to M&A and also to debt advisory. And I will go there in a minute. Perhaps it makes sense to talk a little bit about my career path. And I'll start by saying that I have a quite unusual career path, and that results directly from a major doubt that I had during college. So with a management degree, I had this enormous doubt about starting in a corporation, seeing how companies operate from the inside, or to begin in a big four where I knew that all the diversity and the learning curve were very, very, very fast. So I had that big doubt, but eventually I started with the big four. Another big four, not KPMG, because at that time KPMG did not have we were not able to enter directly to corporate finance, and I went corporate finance so much. So I started with another big four, and then a few years later, I joined Vodafone Portugal, the planning and control departments, in order to know how companies operated from inside. So that was something that I needed to do. And after some years in a big four, I went to Vodafone Portugal. But then, I miss that, all the adrenaline and that permanent challenge around advisory. And I decided to move to investment banking, being more dedicated to M&A. I also have an experience as a finance director of one of the major Portuguese groups. But then again, back in 2013, I joined KPMG in order to return to advisory. That's what I really like.
Thank you so much. What a delighted career. Can you please introduce KPMG for those who do not know what KPMG is?
Sure. So KPMG is one of the big four. We have three major functions: audit and assurance, tax services, and advisory. Within advisory, we have management and risk consulting, IT advisory, and deal advisory. That's the department where I belong. Probably it's interesting if I zoom in a little bit on deal advisory. What we do in deal advisory. So basically, we have different kinds of services covering M&A, debt advisory, infrastructure. We have restructuring, valuation, and transaction services. So all these services are covered under the deal advisory team. Before it's called corporate finance, financial advisory, so you name it.
Thank you so much. Now, can you please tell us what do you do specifically, like a typical day of you?
Right. I can describe what I do, but not what's a typical day. Let me say that as I was explaining to you, I'm particularly dedicated to M&A and to that advisory. In terms of industry specialization, as you know, Portugal, we have the size that we have, so we only have dedicated teams to financial and insurance services. Okay, we have a particular team that only does FIG, and then we have a team covering infrastructure. Then we have a more generic approach on the other sectors, but of course that, depending on your background, your track record in terms of use, you gain more experience in one sector with particular sectors. So what I do is specifically, basically, I spend most of my time involved assisting our clients in buying or selling companies, both in Portugal and abroad, also in fundraising processes within the context of those transactions or outside those transactions. And we worked both with trade buyers, strategic players, private equities, infrastructure funds, pension funds, so different kinds of investors. So but I would say that most of my time is dedicated to buying and selling companies.
Thank you.
In terms of the typical day, just to comment on that. So there's no such thing as a daily routine. That's probably the most interesting thing on advisory that has a very relevant impact in terms of the candidate profile that we are looking for, because we need the flexibility to deal with the permanent challenges that we might have during the day. So when we work in transactions, we always have to be ready to deal with unexpected events, the impact that those events might have on your client's strategy, changes in landlines, new information that need to be reflected into a financial model and into price strategy. You work in several transactions at the same time, meaning that during the day I can start by at 9 a.m. Discussing something around health, but ending up my day discussing waste management, and in between I have meetings on food and beverage or other kind of industries. So that can be quite challenging, but that I was saying before, because I'm mostly dedicated to industry and to the corporate sector. That doesn't happen with the FIG team, for instance, and with the infrastructure that are more focused on a particular industry.
Thank you. It's challenging, but I think it's rewarding, right?
Definitely. And yeah. I'm a great example of that because I always return to advisory.
Actually, M&A is one of my favorite parts of this industry. And it's been great to hear you talking about a typical day and a day of the advisory. Can you tell us one particular story that you can share with us of a funny project or funny situation or a funny client, something like that?
There are so many stories, but if I may summarize what our main role in transactions, being M&A advisor, I would say that our main role is to make the deal happen. And sometimes or often that goes well beyond the finance theory, So there are a lot of funny situations and a lot of things that you have to deal and that you have to put into perspective in order to make the deal happen. And sometimes that involves knowing not all the personal life of your client, but sometimes it's important to have to acknowledge their preferences and the current context or when they are deciding. So all those stuff is really important. But I can give you an example of a large deal where we were acting on a buy side for a listed company. The deal was very complex, very competitive, and we had several work streams that we had all covered on a very tight schedule. The big decision around price was taken, so apparently everything was ready to be submitted, pens down, and then we raised a question, made a suggestion on the price split that no one had thought about, and that eventually made all the difference. And our client ended up winning the bid. For you to have an idea, the second contender had a very similar price, but they decided to go with a different price split, and our price split was better for the vendor, and we ended up being very successful. And I think that's a great example of what M&A is. It's not only the financial model, it's not only information memorandum and so forth. You have to think about all these particularities of the deal, and to always remember that you need to reach the pain point of the vendor and of the buyer and to make it happen.
Yes, to go beyond the numbers, right? It's always to give
When you start, I can give you that example, because when I started my career, as I told you, I started in Level before, and I started in valuations, and I thought that, well, my whole life would be around valuations and financial models. Right? So I was really keen on that. But then when I started doing other things, I realized that doing M&A, it's different, because you then combine the numbers and the finance theory with strategy, so it's a different combination, although I also like very much valuations and all the other disciplines of corporate finance.
Okay, thank you very much. Now let's talk about the industry of M&A in Portugal. Do you think that the industry is big enough for the size of Portugal? Do you think it could increase? And I would ask you to speak about the perspectives about the future of the M&A industry, given COVID and crisis and all of that.
Of course. So I don't know if you have these understanding on the size of the market, because the Portuguese market is very, very active. Sometimes I feel that we are a little bit above our weight when you consider that we are Portugal and the size of Portugal. So we have been having a very, very, very interesting deal flow. I would say that since 2013, after the financial crisis, we started with all the privatizations. Then you have this wave of major M&A deals, particularly on the infrastructure side, and that has been very interesting for us in a very interesting moment in terms of M&A deals. Just to give you an example, 2020 we had on the Portuguese market 60 transactions, and with an aggregate value of 8.8 billion euros, very sizable transactions, such as the sale of Boavida, which was the signing of that transaction that occurred during the pandemic in March, or the sale of GG&D, for instance. So we at KPMG had several teams involved on those deals. Since September, we already closed 3 deals. So there's a very good dynamic, and the deal flow is quite interesting. Of course, that we have an impact due to COVID, and I must say that during the month of March and April and May, the activity and the M&A activity slowed down, of course, but then we basically recovered, and the second semester was quite active. And as we speak, there are very numerous transactions occurring in markets. Our team, and I'm excluding the FIG team, is involved in about 10 to 15 deals, okay, right now. So we are dealing with several deals in parallel. And the combination of industry and infrastructure, okay? And we have not reached that point of distressed M&A. And that's something that we see that will happen perhaps in the second semester of 2021 due to the end of the moratorium and so forth. We are seeing several things envisaged that will have that trend of distressed M&A. And you are also witnessing this and we are living this very special momentum where due to the existing liquidity, some people like to call it excess of liquidity, but with the moment that we are having in terms of macroeconomics, it means that you have all the funds looking for opportunities, interested in deploying capital in a very quick manner, despite the COVID. Of course, that you have certain industries that have been most affected, and in those cases, transactions are still someone that were part of the transactions were suspended. But then you have all these other sectors that are attracting the interest of several buyers, and also trade buyers, that the ones that were able to basically to navigate the crisis are interested in growing to expand their operations. So I'm quite optimistic in terms of the M&A markets. I believe that there are certain aspects that will change due to COVID. But for instance, we are witnessing that processes are being more quick. That's something that you will say, wow. Now that due to COVID, investors will be interested in more long due diligence processes to make sure that everything is on track and to be prepared for all the events. But that is not happening. What is happening is that deals are becoming faster and faster due to that need to, there's lots of cash to be deployed, to be invested.
Yeah, of course, with this interest rate so low and the excess liquidity, and now the future may hold some companies to be bankrupt, and maybe there's a chance for companies and investors to buy good companies with low prices.
Definitely.
And that's really good for the industry, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you see phenomena like the SPACs, where you say, wow. So these are happening, and that will also have an impact on the M&A activity for sure, and it's already having.
Yes. Now, can you tell us what you look for in a candidate for KPMG? So
I'll have to borrow your new slogan that I think it's perfect, which is open minds. So, I know that Isaac just launched a new campaign, and I appreciate this open mind slogans. The slogan. So what I can tell you is that our business is advisory. So of course that we need good and solid foundations in terms of our skills, and in the case of Deal Advisory, that will be related with finance, of course. But above all, what we are looking is for a candidate or for persons that are committed with innovative problem-solving solutions. We have these problem-solving minds, and that can collaborate and bring new approaches into the team, that are able to strive in an environment that requires flexibility, and that's someone that is auto-motivated to learn more and more and more, because sometimes it's not easy for you to understand what is this flexibility requirement. But as I was describing my day, of course, that when you join as a new joiner at KPMG, you will not have all these tasks that, of course, a partner will have, but it's important that you are able to do different things and to change your routine and be able to always give that extra mile despite starting with one task, for instance, and starting working in your own project, and 5 minutes later someone call you and ask you to change and to do a different thing. I think that flexibility and this enthusiasm in collaborating, teamwork, and to bring new solutions, it's something that we value a lot, even more than the hard skills. You are assumed to have those hard skills already in place. Yeah.
One more question. There's a myth, and I know it's a myth because I worked at KPMG as a summer intern, and I know that is not true, but there's a myth that as you join KPMG, you are like explore to your maximum capacity and you work. But as my experience, the work part is really rewarding. It's really intense, but it's feasible. It's really rewarding. Can you speak about that for the new joiners?
Of course, I think that's a myth around Big Four. There's something that sometimes when you talk about Big Four, you think about hard work. But of course, there are days where you have that hard work, and particularly for me that work in transactions that have their own calendar, and sometimes it's not easy to deal with those deadlines when you have several projects happening simultaneously. You will have days where you have hard work, but as you were saying, that would be feasible because that project ends, and then you will have all things will be balanced afterwards. That's something that we need to be prepared, and that's why we value so much the flexibility. You need days where you have to work, but if you have the projects in that phase that you don't need to work hard, so you will have a normal day, and you will compensate those moments where you will giving the extra mile that sometimes is needed.
Yeah,
and I think that it's all. That's the challenging of advisory firms, and as I was mentioning, particularly in the area of transactions, but it's manageable, and we are not looking for those persons that stay in the office for. Nowadays we can't stay at the office, but prior to the pandemic, just stay in the office for long hours. That's not what we are interested in. So we are looking for those candidates that are able to give the extra mile when the extra mile is needed, but when it's not, someone that is doing their life and getting their balance from other areas.
Yeah, and I think the hard work pays off in the end, and it's really a good thing. And I really enjoyed working at KPMG. It was only 1 month on the audit part of the company, but I really enjoyed it, and I think KPMG is a really great company to work on. The last question: Can you give 1 or 2 advices for students that are looking for entering the marketplace and even KPMG?
Well, I would say enjoy your college times and then join KPMG. As simple as that. Perhaps I would just say one thing that it's really important for your lifetime, and when we are finalizing our degree or when we are candidates for first employment, sometimes we don't realize that we need to be bold. We need to dare to dream and to know what we want to go there. And for instance, I have this strange career path where I had several very different jobs. But what I can tell you is that those different jobs always, basically those experiences enable me to do M&A in a proper way, because sometimes you need to know that, okay, I need to take the chance, I need to go there and then to go there and to experience, to have different experience. Sometimes the Portuguese do not have this habit of being bold and to do different things.
Yeah, I think everyone has to do like an extra mile to get what they want, and yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I'm sure for our listeners. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great week, and goodbye.
Thank you, João, and I'm totally available to answer your questions or the other candidates from ISEG. So please reach me out if you want. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.